How an avoidant woman checks if you've really moved on. The first sign may appear subtle, because avoidant women rarely announce emotional curiosity directly. Instead, she may quietly observe whether your behavior still seems emotionally connected to her presence. She may notice whether you react when she appears online, disappears, or suddenly changes. She may watch your social media activity, looking for clues about your emotional availability. But understand this carefully. Observation does not always mean she wants reconciliation with you. Sometimes, she simply wants confirmation that her emotional impact over you has finally disappeared. An avoidant woman can become curious when someone stops responding exactly like before emotionally. Your silence may suddenly feel different because she cannot easily predict your emotional reaction. Before, she may have expected immediate replies, explanations, reassurance, or emotional conversations from you. Now, your calmness creates uncertainty because the familiar emotional pattern no longer exists anymore. That uncertainty can become especially powerful when she realizes you are continuing without her. She may begin checking whether your life appears genuinely peaceful without her presence anymore. Perhaps she notices new routines, new interests, healthier boundaries, or simply greater emotional stability. She may not ask directly because direct vulnerability can feel uncomfortable for avoidant personalities. Instead, she might create small opportunities to discover whether you still care deeply about her. A simple message can sometimes function like an emotional temperature check without obvious intentions. She might ask how you are doing, even though the question seems completely casual. She could mention something familiar, hoping your response reveals whether old emotions remain accessible. Sometimes, she may suddenly become warmer after previously appearing distant and emotionally unavailable again. This change can feel confusing because it seems disconnected from everything that happened previously. But emotional curiosity does not necessarily mean emotional readiness for genuine relationship commitment. That distinction matters because checking your feelings differs greatly from rebuilding emotional intimacy. She may be testing whether the emotional door remains open whenever she becomes curious. If you immediately rush toward her, she receives information about your continued emotional availability. If you remain calm, respectful, and grounded, she receives completely different information instead. She may realize that your emotional world no longer revolves around her decisions anymore. That realization can be surprisingly difficult for someone accustomed to emotional distance and control. Avoidant people often value independence, yet independence feels different when someone else becomes independent. Your genuine detachment removes the reassurance that you will always remain emotionally available. That does not mean she necessarily becomes desperate, manipulative, or suddenly transformed emotionally overnight. It simply means the relationship dynamic has changed, and she must recognize that change. One common check involves appearing unexpectedly after a period of complete emotional silence. Another involves reacting to your stories, posts, achievements, or visible changes in lifestyle. Sometimes, she may use mutual friends or indirect conversations to learn about you quietly. She may casually ask whether you are seeing someone, without revealing personal feelings directly. That question can carry more emotional meaning than its simple wording initially suggests. She may be wondering whether another person now occupies the emotional space she once occupied previously. Yet jealousy alone should never be mistaken for genuine readiness to build something healthier. Another important check happens when she becomes slightly more emotionally expressive than usual. She may share something personal and carefully observe whether you immediately become emotionally available. If you respond with warmth but maintain boundaries, she notices your emotional transformation clearly. You are showing that compassion no longer requires abandoning your own emotional needs anymore. That difference can completely change how she experiences your presence after separation. She may also test whether your old triggers still work when she returns unexpectedly. Perhaps she expects jealousy, anger, pleading, defensiveness, or immediate emotional reassurance from you again. When those reactions disappear, she may become uncertain about how much influence remains. This is where many people make a critical mistake after finally moving forward. They interpret renewed attention as proof that the avoidant partner has finally changed completely. Then they abandon their boundaries before receiving consistent evidence of emotional responsibility. Remember, being checked does not automatically mean being chosen for a committed relationship. Someone can miss your presence while still fearing closeness, vulnerability, responsibility, and consistency deeply. Someone can wonder about you without being prepared to meet your emotional needs. Therefore, watch behavior over time rather than assigning meaning to one unexpected message. Real change appears through consistency, accountability, communication, vulnerability, and willingness to repair emotional damage. If she genuinely wants another chance, her behavior eventually becomes clearer than her curiosity. She will not merely check whether you still care. She will demonstrate why you should stay. She may communicate more honestly instead of relying upon distance, ambiguity, or indirect signals. She may acknowledge previous patterns instead of pretending the relationship problems never actually happened. She may become willing to discuss difficult emotions without immediately withdrawing from the conversation. Most importantly, she will respect your boundaries even when those boundaries disappoint her deeply. That is one of the strongest differences between curiosity and genuine emotional investment. If she only checks whether you moved on, attention may disappear after reassurance. But if she wants rebuilding, consistent effort usually continues beyond the initial emotional test. So do not perform happiness simply to make her wonder about losing you someday. Do not manufacture jealousy, post exaggerated achievements, or pretend you never cared deeply. Moving on becomes powerful when your peace no longer depends upon her reaction. Your goal should never be proving that she lost someone valuable through performance. Your goal should be becoming emotionally secure enough that uncertainty no longer controls you. When you genuinely move forward, her tests become information rather than emotional commands. You can notice them without chasing, interpreting, reacting, or abandoning your personal boundaries. And that emotional steadiness may be exactly what she notices most clearly about you. Because the person she once understood may no longer respond from emotional dependence anymore. You are not necessarily becoming colder, you are becoming more emotionally self-directed inside. That distinction can make your presence feel unfamiliar, even to someone who knew you deeply. So if she checks whether you have moved on, let your actions answer naturally. Let your calmness show that your life continues, whether she returns or not. Let your boundaries show that love cannot survive without mutual respect and consistency. And let your future become more important than decoding every signal from her. Because genuine moving forward is not about making an avoidant woman chase you. It is about reaching a place where chasing answers no longer feels necessary. If she returns, evaluate her actions carefully rather than surrendering to familiar emotions.